Chart analysts are anticipating a strong move going into the end of the year, a strong rally to cap things off in what frankly has been a rather disappointing Q4. I'm going to share a perspective with you from tons of analysts, including a number of XRP chart analysts. One says that, of course, kind of hinting at, this is where the XRP reversal could come, because obviously we're down a fair bit from the all-time high, which is normal in crypto. That doesn't mean there's a fundamental problem with XRP itself. But one analyst in particular thinks that we could see the strongest burst to the upside for XRP price that we've seen in quite a while. We have XRP currently at $1.89, Bitcoin at 87,715 bucks. So market's down a little bit technically over the last 24 hours, but it's just another day of ranging. Nothing in that regard has changed, but it's going to soon. And you know what's fascinating is we continue to see, despite this chop and all this negative sentiment in the world of crypto, and you can really easily see it if you hop on social media like X, the institutional money just keeps flowing into XRP. Specifically here, you can see on your screen, spot XRP ETFs now up to 1.12 billion. We now have 27 days of spot XRP ETFs being live. There's a total of 5 of them live. And just yesterday, we had inflows of $43.89 million. That's for just one day. That is, I think that's the 27th day that we've had inflows for XRP. We haven't had a single day since launch where there have been outflows. And there will be one day, I don't pretend to know when, but we've already had so many days of inflows, like I don't even care at this point. I'll report on the bad news when it happens. It means it's not that big a deal. But what really matters, what is material significance here, is the strength that this shows for XRP. While everybody's moping around, XRP's lower, it's moving sideways, we were supposed to have alt season, blah, 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 bitching up a storm. Quietly here, the institutions are positioning themselves. That is exactly what happens. This is institutional money flowing in at a time when people just aren't, in the retail crowd just aren't sufficiently thrilled. They are not happy to be here, but they should be, because the institutions know what comes next. And I just think it's amazing that most institutions are buying XRP for the first time around $2, some a little above, some a little bit lower right now. But that's their starting point. They know, they don't literally know, but they believe firmly, obviously, that this is going way higher, or they would not be doing this. But think about that. What a strong start. 27 freaking days straight, 27 business days of nothing but inflows here. And at a time when crypto everyone's in the, I'm telling you, that is serious strength right there. Don't ignore this. And just wait, when the market does turn around and things start ripping to the upside, people are going to be wishing that they had taken advantage of the prices that we see right now. Here's a post from chart analyst Dom. He's showing an XRP US oil chart, and he wrote, "This chart has been in a fierce downtrend for nearly 3 months. There is a clear trend line that's been holding it down. It's evident that this pullback is different, so the question is how long it lasts, and is a relief push due to print soon? All eyes are on that trend, as once we see acceptance above, price will print the strongest upward push we have seen in months." Okay, so he's actually optimistic that is a thing that could be in the cards in the relative short term, which is why, if the analyst that I'm going to highlight a little bit later in the video, if their suspicions are correct, and indeed we're going to be seeing a rally broadly in crypto sooner than later, XRP is poised to be perhaps one of the greatest beneficiaries of such an environment. Here's a post from ChartNerd. It says, XRP has been range-bound above a previous level of multi-year resistance for the last 13 months. Deviation below would provide greater opportunity, but holding the line signifies reaccumulation before a huge expansion into double digits. And this is what's been so fascinating throughout 2024. All of the idiot analysts out there were screaming, XRP's dead. Look at how low it's priced against the dollar. Look at how low it's priced against Bitcoin. It's never going to do anything. And then it became the #1 performer out of the top 100 coins and stayed that way for a very, very, very long time, beginning in November of last year. And what's fascinating is we've been above that key level, hovering, a little above, a little below, but around that key level, roughly around $2, which was the peak of the last market cycle. XRP at $2 at its peak in, I guess it was April of 2021. And so that was XRP back then when it was stretched and it could only hang out there temporarily. And of course, it didn't go higher than that in large part because of the SEC lawsuit, of course. But setting that aside, what's fascinating is this is not some stretched value. This is just where XRP lives now, a little above, a little below. It spent much of the year closer to $3, actually. So it's range bound. So I know that might seem like an extreme range, and subjectively, I think it's fair to say it is, but that's normal in crypto. The fact that it will, it'll go up and down between that range, $2 to $3, roughly speaking, for that long a period of time. Like, yes, that's absolutely welcome to crypto, folks. Yes, that doesn't mean it's broken. It doesn't mean anything's wrong. But if we are going to enter that environment where things drip to the upside, I'm telling you, XRP, look at the damn chart. It's range bound. It is showing strength. The fact that it's there when most other altcoins couldn't hold such a range, and they just plummeted throughout this year. Tons, and most of them actually. I'm telling you, altcoins on the whole are priced in the gutter relative to Bitcoin. Just absolutely, and same for XRP. The other alts are priced in the gutter compared to XRP. So it actually is not as bad as some people are thinking here. Here's a post from chart analyst Steph is Crypto. XRP is currently in leg 4 of a corrective structure, the phase where price looks weakest and sentiment turns fully bearish. Gold went through this exact phase before transitioning into a major expansion trend. What most see as weakness is often the final compression before acceleration. Buckle up. Yeah, so another way of articulating that, I could just kind of dumb it down for you. Well, actually, you know what? It makes you think of the wider the base, the higher in space. That dorky phrase, just meaning the longer an asset consolidates, the greater the force it'll burst with when it finally does go. But the fact that it's not doing what you want in the moment does not mean that it will not in the future. You just don't control the time, and you need to be at peace with that if you're going to find success investing in crypto, really in anything, but especially crypto. You just have to wait, and either you have exposure when the market goes or you don't. Here's a post from Crypto Insight UK, just from this morning, 4:35 a.m. And he posted, "We are looking for XRP to reclaim lower time frame range highs at $1.95 and then push towards reclaiming the bottom of the higher time frame range at around $2. Things aren't as bleak as crypto Twitter makes out. Don't believe the hype." Yeah, and so overall, that's the general message that I keep seeing from just about every XRP chart analyst I follow who is charting XRP currently. It's very difficult for me to find any opinion to the contrary. And when I do, I'll highlight it on the channel. But I mean, unless you're going to go out to like the analysts that I don't regularly follow who just, suffer from XRP derangement syndrome, you can find that stuff. And for fun, sometimes I'll highlight it on the channel just to kind of laugh at it. But out of the analysts that I regularly follow and respect, and I know have a great track record, this is the general consensus. So take it for what it's worth, but I find peace in that anyway. Here's a post from More Crypto Online. XRP stretching wave 2 like it's warming up for something dramatic. What's your call? So here's another analyst who thinks in the short term we could be seeing a fairly notable jump to the upside. Do you see the trend here? So he's charting on the upper end, and this is just in the short term, not like some sort of peak for the cycle. Of course not. But charting about $2.22 perhaps in the short term. And this is what I keep seeing. And then there's this from on-chain analytics from Glassnode. And this is interesting. With price back above $90,000, perpetual open interest has risen from 304,000 to 310,000 Bitcoin, about a 2% increase, while the funding rate has heated up from 0.04% to 0.09%. This combination signals a renewed buildup in leveraged long positioning as perpetual traders position for a potential year-end move. There you go. And so we'll see if that happens. I'm not going to take a bet on whether or not we have a rally into the end of the year. Not only do I not make price predictions, and I never will because that's just not my jam. I just don't do that. I'm not going to speculate on short-term price action just in general, but I do find it fascinating and certainly plausible. If anybody's out there thinking we're probably going to see the surge into the end of the year, I don't think you're crazy. You very well may end up being correct here. But I've seen a lot of this type of expectation. And when you look at various metrics, it just makes such speculation seem that much more reasonable. For example, take a look at this. Wait, actually, that's not the one I was thinking of. Let me read this too, though. This is from chart analyst Jelly. It's on Bitcoin. He said a 3-day bullish divergence with the MACD, which is, of course, a momentum indicator, about to crush bullish as well. Pretty sure the bottom is in, and Bitcoin will push back into 6-figure territory soon. Recharge over the holidays and hit the ground running next year. Okay, so he's not necessarily saying it has to happen to wrap up 2025, but he is optimistic that we're going to see Bitcoin get back into 6-figure land and hit the ground running 2026. Now take a look at this. This is one I was thinking of just a minute ago. This is a post shared by Cryptos Are Us. Bitcoin and Ethereum exchange inflow value, and this is telling. Liquidity is quietly drying up. Bitcoin is still hovering around $88,000, but the behavior underneath the surface has changed a lot. A month ago, both Coinbase and Binance were seeing heavy Bitcoin and Ethereum inflows. Coinbase alone had over $21 billion in 7-day inflows. That kind of activity usually signals repositioning and potential sell pressure. And so I'll pause to note what he's saying here is there's a lot of Bitcoin and Ethereum moving from cold storage to cryptocurrency exchanges. And when people do that, of course, it's because they have the intent, generally speaking, of selling sooner rather than later. Whereas if you see flows off of exchanges, then you can intuit that what's most probable is that people do not want to sell anytime soon, or else why the hell would they take their crypto off exchanges? And so there were flows. And I'll also note, since I got heavy XRP bags, it's my largest individual crypto holding, and I am biased. XRP is my favorite cryptocurrency. I'll note that while this was happening, XRP ETFs were still surging. In fact, you could see for much of the last, say month or so, Bitcoin and Ethereum, their spot ETFs were having tremendous outflows. At the same time, for XRP and in a sour environment, nothing but inflows day after day after day after day, leading through yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see what happens today as well. But pretty reasonable chance we're going to see yet another green day. I think it'll be the 28th green day for XRP ETFs today. But anyway, so then he says, fast forward to now, price is basically the same, but Coinbase inflows are down more than 60%, and overall exchange inflows are much lower. Binance is still seeing activity, but even there, flows are meaningfully softer. That tells you something important. Assets aren't rushing to exchanges anymore. Selling urgency has faded, and short-term trading activity has slowed. When price stays stable while liquidity tightens, it usually means supply is being absorbed, not distributed, meaning sold. And when liquidity is this thin, moves tend to come after, not before, people get comfortable again. Spot on. So that's happening at a time when people are thinking, And also, don't forget, we had a serious materially negative event happen October 10th, biggest liquidation event in crypto history, market makers wounded. And that, takes, when you're talking about what is effectively a forced unwind after something like that happens, where market makers can't hedge. And so as a result, they're stuck with assets they didn't intend on holding for a long period of time. They're contractually bound by whatever firms they use for financing to, over a period of time, unwind those holdings, which means sell. And so typically that happens over a span of 6 to 10 weeks. It can vary a little bit. When FTX fell apart and market makers were wounded there, that unwind took about 8 weeks. And so we should be past that. It's just interesting to see. So that's behind us now. That should be over. Almost certainly that's over. Either it's literally over or it's about to be. And then it's happening. So that would wind up, that would conclude at the same time that you're seeing this happen. It's just fascinating. And then to see the expectations from various XRP chart analysts on top of all, I just find the alignment here, a lot of confluence. I find that fascinating. Here's a post from chart analyst Mustache. And this is the crypto total market cap. He says, it looks as though total market cap is finally breaking out of its nearly 3-month downtrend. Truly positive signs at the end of the year. So he believes that this cycle's not over and the best is yet ahead. And it's interesting because he thinks it's actually showing signs of literally breaking out right now. Not everybody agrees with that. Some just think that it's likely to break out. So it depends on where you're drawing your trend line, I suppose. And you're going to find little squabbles here and there from analyst to analyst. He seems to think it's going, though. So and this is what I keep seeing everybody talking about today. Here's a post from chart analyst Malius. This is market cap tether dominance percentage chart here. He says crypto bulls get called blind these days, despite higher time frame structure intact, plus bearish divergences printed on tether dominance, a 3-day time frame, plus bearish cross on 1-week wave trend oscillator. It's clear now that tether dominance bulls are running out of steam. Okay, that would be good because if dominance of tether goes down, what do you think happens? See, stable coins are typically very frequently considered, especially if we're moving to the upside, that's just a lot of, as they call it, dry powder, meaning those stable coins can quickly be allocated to Bitcoin or pick your altcoin. And what he's saying here is the dominance of tether looks like it's breaking down, probably. So if that indeed is going to happen, what do you think is next? He's obviously hinting at, the virtual certainty if it breaks down. Money's flowing into the system, folks. It's going to get out of stables and into actual cryptocurrencies that are not stable, like Bitcoin and altcoins. Here's a post from Mikey Bull Crypto. This is an Ethereum BTC chart. He said, one of the most bullish charts in crypto. Altcoins outperformance loading. Well, as I always say, markets find bottoms. And, at some point, Ethereum is going to continue to outperform even further. It's going to break to the upside. And this is against Bitcoin, but it's going to happen against the dollar. And so to think that XRP wouldn't respond in kind is just silly nonsense. This market cycle is not over. Here's a post from Crypto Wizard. He's kind of leaning the same way. He's also sharing an ETH BTC chart. And he says, can it repeat? Take a closer look. What do you see? I see years of a downtrend coming to an end. Now, Ethereum against Bitcoin is on the verge of reclaiming its 50-week exponential moving average. The last time this happened, it exploded. That's right, price explode. You can see that blue line is what he's referencing right there. And history does tend to rhyme with itself. So he's comparing last market cycle to where we are right now. He thinks this thing hasn't even truly started. So we'll see here. Either way, I'm still firmly in the camp because, I'm willing to publicly share a perspective on what I think on a higher time frame, just general. Are we in a bear market or are we not? That's, everybody's got their own opinion on this, whether you're an analyst or not. I am not convinced for tons of macro reasons I'll keep highlighting. I'm not convinced we're in a bear market. I do not think this is over. I think it's very clear that this market cycle has lengthened and the best is yet ahead. And if I'm wrong, it ain't going to hurt me because it's not going to change my strategy, even if I'm wrong, and I doubt it. I could be wrong. Doesn't change it. I'm just going to keep holding XRP. And even if it takes years, then I'll just wait until we have another market rally and then I still win. So it doesn't matter. I can't control that part anyway. I'm just saying things I think. It doesn't materially change anything. It sure as hell doesn't change what I'm going to do. When XRP is worth a fortune in the future compared to what it is right now, then I'll act. Then I'll finally sell. But until then, I'm going to have fun hanging out with the rest of you, just tracking this stuff and watching it because it is a lot of fun, admittedly, day to day to watch this stuff when you've got skin in the game. But no, it's very obvious to me that the best is yet ahead. And XRP is a very obvious early winner of the crypto space. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because if anything I say are right, that would be a very, very, very bad idea.